Greetings to everybody who's watching this video. So we have three different questions that we as first ask for us to do in vectors. And as you know, we still are doing vectors. We're still trying to solve some very mysteries with vectors. So let's go ahead and see how these vectors are going to be different as they give on a question. So they give us a question to do vector k first, which vector k results of a vector a, which you had this vector right over here in the top, and then we go vector b down, and then towards our left for vector c, a little up for vector d, and then down for vector e, to get our resultant, vector k. As you can see, is much more towards the bottom, and it goes towards right to become our vector k. Now they tell us also to find out vector L, which has a very different instruction although for getting to vector L. So we have vector B first, and then we go towards vector E to the bottom, and then we go all the way to the right with vector A, coming up with vector D, and then the left towards vector C, which we get the resultant vector L. As you can see, the difference between vector L and vector K is that vector K goes much more to the bottom. Like, although both vector K and both vector L are going downwards, vector K is going much more towards down and has a little push towards its right. While vector L, it goes much more towards the right instead of going down. So that's kind of a very difference I can notice from these vectors, and you can also see as well. So when you change, as you can see, when you change the ways of instruction with the vectors, we can change the resultant. Now we have another vector to do, which is vector m, and this vector m is supposed to be with opposite of those vectors. Let me actually do a different color. Negative vector b, which as you see vector b goes towards our down, so the opposite of vector b has to go up, and then vector e also goes down, so the opposite of vector e goes up again. And then you have negative vector a. As you could see, vector a goes very far toward the right, so we go very far towards the left instead of negative vector a. And then we go downwards, that's supposed to go upwards with vector d. We go downwards with vector d, negative vector d, and then we go towards right, since vector c goes towards left, we go the opposite way to get negative vector c. To get resultant vector m. Something you can notice between vector k and vector m, that they kind of seems to go at the very same push towards the right or left. The only thing is vector m goes towards left, vector k goes towards right, and the vector k is going down, but vector m is going up. So that much is about it. As you can see, as we change the instruction of the vectors, we can change the resultant. We can change the direction, we can change how much we want that resultant vector to move, and also the direction. Like, we want to go up, down, whatever. Hope you guys enjoyed, and this is the vectors that we learned. We're still gonna go with vectors, see if we're gonna have something new in the future. Oh, hopefully we learn with each other.